Alright guys, we're back for a third video on things you missed in the Starfield gameplay trailer. And honestly, this one is the best yet. Not kidding.
Collected data suggests that this is an accurate statement. Goodbye.
We've also made plenty of interesting discoveries in the two previous videos, so be sure to watch those if you haven't seen them. But now, let's take a look at even more things you missed in the Starfield gameplay trailer. And trust me, you don't want to miss these, so stick around to the end. Before we get started, let me just say, this leather jacket is the classic Cafe Racer in antique brown, found on SoulRevolver.com. Snag one today for the low price of $408.65. I initially thought the O2 CO2 meter in the bottom left of the screen was an actual survival mechanic, where you had to pay attention to the oxygen levels of the atmosphere from planet to planet. It seems though that this meter is actually just a stamina bar that lets you know how long you can sprint in Starfield. It makes sense considering the more energy you expend, the more oxygen you breathe, and the more carbon dioxide you expel. In this combat sequence, if you look to the right wall, when the player character turns the corner, you can see scratches on the wall, and they look like they came from something big. Is this from an Axion energy experiment gone bad? Wouldn't be a typical Bethesda game without. These aren't typical shotgun slugs. These look like FMJ rounds with a pointed tip or possibly armor-piercing rounds. Also, the dual barrels of this Laredo shotgun are octagonal? What? For a futuristic gun or even modern gun, I would say this is highly unusual. I took a look at this whiteboard one more time to try and figure out what I could make of it, and I finally realized what this sentence says. Heterogeneous cells to be extracted from captured specimen. And the second point here says, tumor growth. Is Axion trying to cure cancer or create biological weapons for the United Colonies? Also, I wanted to say, one of you came up with a good point that it's possible that the word Axion found inside of this research station could be just related to the fact that Axion is a manufacturer of parts that were used to build the research station. So, it's also likely that this could just simply be a United Colonies research station. Remember that trait you can choose called Dream Home, where you own a small house on a peaceful little moon, but it comes with a 50,000 credit mortgage with Galbank that has to be paid weekly? Well, here's the bank, right here in New Atlantis. Some people think that these pylons found throughout the game are either fast travel points or an acronym for Settled Systems News Network. Speaking of news, click the card in the top right corner to learn more about the threat of the Crimson Fleet. But make sure you come back to this video because we've still got a lot of important things to talk about. The United Colonies, the Freestar Collective, and the Chronomark Watch were all established within 21 years of each other. To me, this means that warp drives or broad space exploration probably started happening shortly before then, maybe sometime around 2150. The United Colonies and the Freestar Collective wouldn't wage war with each other until roughly 150 years after their inception. What in the beard of Zeus is that? It looks like some kind of massive siege tank or combat mech or something. One of you suggested it's actually the player's ship at the Aquila landing dock. I don't know. The unrealistic excitement in me relates the Freestar Collective to the Brotherhood of Steel, and this thing to Liberty Prime.
Death is a preferable alternative to communism.
This shop in Neon City is some kind of emporium. I'm willing to bet that Bethesda took a cue from Guardians of the Galaxy, and this odd-looking and eccentric man takes inspiration from the Collector, as he does acquire rare goods and antiquities from strange places, and his shop is even referred to as the Collector's Emporium. It seems he will be one of your stops for acquiring an artifact.
Beautiful, isn't it? The man who sold me this told me that it spoke to him.
Could this scene be inside of that same Emporium? Neon City just seems like a place where criminals and unsavory characters could find harbor from justice, you know what I mean? Otherwise, what's this Crimson Fleet pirate doing here? Also, if you look closely at this statue in the glass case back here, you can see that it's actually an old Earth relic. This is clearly a soldier from the Chinese Terracotta Army. The Terracotta Army is a huge collection of funerary art sculptures depicting the armies of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. These statues date back to the 3rd century BC. Despite not knowing what planet on which Neon City resides, we do know the star system where it's located. That would be VoLll 2. I'll let you put 2 and 2 together on that one. More anti-UC graffiti. Liquid happiness. Is this smiley happy room kind of creepy, or is it just me? This lady must be some kind of guidance counselor or therapist, or maybe this is where the United Colony's defectors get sent to be
re-educated.
Okay, so this guy right here is Commander Kibwe Ikande of the United Colony's SysDef, which I think means Systems Defense. And this scene is likely aboard a UC spaceship or space station called the Vigilance. How do I know this? Well, someone on Reddit found out you can pause the screen on this scene in an earlier Bethesda video called Into the Starfield, The Journey Begins. We remember that one, right? If you look closely, you can see what appears to be an urgent notice to allies of the UC Fleet Admiral about the growing threat of the Crimson Fleet. Let me just say this real quick, thank you so much for all your support and engagement as we get closer to the coveted 1,000 subscriber milestone. I'm in this by myself, I wear all the hats, and I promise that I'll always do my best to maintain the unique quality that I feel sets this channel apart from the others. With that being said, let's get back to the video. Alright, so here's what that urgent notice says.
Urgent communique. Please be on alert. Pirates of the Crimson Fleet have extended far beyond the Crick system and have established footholds in the Sagan, Cheyenne, Lunara, and Narion systems. Both SysDef and the Vanguard are committed to ridding United Colony space of these parasites. This is clearly no longer just a Freestar Collective problem. Also, be advised that the Crimson Fleet is not a single organized entity or faction. Rather, it is a loose confederation of individual captains, all organized under the same banner. Shown here is the symbol or Jolly Roger they've adopted. Anyone displaying that symbol is assumed to be associated with the Crimson Fleet and can be terminated at will. Any questions should be addressed to Lieutenant John Tuala at Mast for the Vanguard, Commander Kibwe Ikande aboard the UC Vigilance for SysDef, UC Fleet Admiral Pasquale Logan, Mast, Military, Administrative, and Scientific Triumvirate, New Atlantis, Planet Jemison, Alpha Centauri.
See, I figured this has to be Kibwe Ikande, as he's the only UC officer we've seen with an African name and accent. It appears as though these so-called Ecliptic Mercenaries can be seen briefly in this segment walking up some stairs. My guess is they'll take on a similar role to Talon Company from Fallout 3, possibly looking to permanently silence any movers and shakers who've put themselves in the crosshairs of certain interests in the settled systems. I believe this Crimson Fleet headquarters is likely a commandeered United Colony's outpost of some sort, judging by the way the screens read System Error and the words Command Center are mockingly written on the floor here. These mysterious round pedestals on the floor seem to have similar markings or are possibly an exact representation of the patterns in the map found aboard the constellation ship Frontier. Not sure what it all means, but if you want to start chipping away at that mystery with me, then start with episode 1 of my video series, The Greatest Mystery of Starfield. Considering it's been revealed recently that we're going to travel back to the solar system early in the game and possibly find out what happened to Earth, could this be the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in tatters back on Earth? There are some eerie similarities and some of the exact same space relics on display. You guys ready to go back to DC? In the Outpost building segment, you can see in the bottom left corner that this base is being built on a planet in the star system Narion, which neighbors our star system Sol. Not only was this one of the star systems mentioned in the urgent communique from earlier, but it's also listed as one of the star systems that the Crimson Fleet has managed to establish a foothold in. Seems this outpost is being built in hostile territory, unless of course you're a space jerk too.
Is it okay if I take a lunch break?
No one quits.
Okay, well, I gotta run to the bathroom real quick.
No one shits.
Right.
This laboratory is aboard a ship, maybe even as an add-on to the player's ship, with lab assistants hired to research here and maintain it. How do I know this is in a ship? Secure before flight. Pull escape! Will we be able to eject from our ship as a last resort to avoid sudden death and plummet to the nearest planet in an escape pod? A bit of a stretch, but entertaining nonetheless. Does this treasure chest-like symbol represent the ability to collect space loot while flying your ship? That would be convenient. The Crimson Fleet are no strangers to dramatic presentation and spooky adornments, and their spaceships follow suit with names like Haunt and Ghost. I wonder, Do they celebrate Halloween in the settled systems? Our very last point here is going to be faction systems. If you look in the top right corner of the star map here, it seems to suggest that many star systems will be aligned with certain factions. Depending on your friends or foes, this could change what's available or what happens to you when you travel to systems that represent either ally or enemy. Okay guys, that's all I've got for you in this video, the third installment in a mini-series about finding things you missed in the Starfield gameplay trailer. Be sure to check out the first two if you haven't seen them, and let me know what you think. What did you guys come up with? What did I miss in the gameplay trailer? You know the routine. Put it in the comments down below, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned. We've got some big Starfield content coming soon as we look forward to the future.